Here we go, OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
How could you wear the hat and be proud of anything that you guys represent? Like, that's the worst matchup / game / performance. Like, I didn't even, like, that's trash, man.
It was an awful game, but a beautiful game if you hammered the Broncos last night. And I'm wearing the Hazenbro hat with pride. I generally never wear a hat on the air, if ever, but I'm going 3 hours strong wearing the Hazenbro hat because we have stormed back. Noodles, you heard these guys talking smack, so cocky, so arrogant. And now we're in the lead, and we are not looking back. I guarantee it.
Okay, so I know this, and I know how things go because I read the group chat. And the group chat took an ugly twist last night. Now, I need clarification because I did not see, but there was a tweet thrown out there apparently by Cocky Al's brother.
It was a really greasy tweet, admittedly, but for my parts, I'm willing to give him – a little bit of leeway there, and I
What did
responded.
his greasy tweet say?
It was more about who he tagged. He tagged somebody in a tweet based on what Luke was saying. It was a little bit below the belt. But listen, we're feeling good. Al's brother, he should be puffing his chest out. Nobody's taken more heat on this show in the history of our show than Al's brother. Right?
Yeah.
And again, you guys were so cocky, asking about a mercy rule. I remember when we were in Montreal. It was ugly when we were in Montreal, and I had someone come over from TSN, a pretty significant, individual within the company, and they're like, "Are you going to keep this close? Like, what do you think is going to happen?" I'm like, honestly, I don't know. We're hoping. We feel good about our process. We think at some point it will turn, and it's a long season. Here we are about 3 weeks later, and we're in the lead. And Al's brother and I are picking winners. We will have more winners later this afternoon. Luke will join us at 6. I'm sure he will respond to the since deleted tweet. Deleted tweet because we are a team of integrity. Al's brother and myself will not.
Did I miss this
levels.
in the group chat? Was there a delete that tweet or I'm going to punch your face in?
Luke wasn't overly happy about it.
There was some language, and I will say this too. Hayes, you were like, "That's not us, Al's brother. Get rid of it." Like, you actually, like,
I had to be the captain. I had to step in. I said, we're not going to play that game, right? We got to be careful here. We have a lead. You got to let us bask in the lead here. We just don't want to screw it by, getting silly online and the bot farm and all that kind of stuff. But
oh, my God.
Anyway, it was a fun one. It was an awful game. Al Michaels, it's truly one of the great sporting experiences is hearing Al Michaels so disgusted with a football game he's calling. And he was really repulsed last night. Like, it was really, really ugly. And credit to Denver, credit to Sean Payton. That's a big win for him and for them. And, Bo Nix looked pretty good, but the Saints are just not a very good team, and there's a lot of injuries. And nights like that last night with that kind of an injury report and the way the game played out makes you wonder how they could possibly add another game to the schedule. Like, how could you get to 18 games on the season? Yet I think everyone concedes that's where it's going. They're eventually going to play 18 games in a year.
Sure they are.
And what is it going to possibly look like, that 18th game? For bad teams at the end of the year when they're all beat up, it's going to be an ugly product, but they're going to do it.
With expansion coming, potentially. What if they put 4 teams in Europe?
They might.
That's the thing. Like, if you had expansion and you add that on, I mean, it's the NFL. It's a machine. It is a machine,
Noodles, but there is such a buildup and everyone is so jacked up for football. And then it filters out after 5 or 6 weeks, and there's a lot of trash. Like, there's a lot of bad teams, bad quarterbacks, and it's just teams with no hope. I think Jay, on his show, does a segment with one of his betting guys, and they they add teams that have no chance of winning the Super Bowl every week. I think you can put a ton of teams.
Oh,
we could do that with
20.
the NHL if you want. If you want to add, if you want to add 2 teams starting on Monday, 2 teams will do 2 teams a week that have no chance of winning the Stanley Cup. No, we might as well. It's good content. We'll just add 2 teams.
Let's get a few out of the way right now. All right, a few right. You give each of us have.
Dude, I said Monday will start.
No, he wants to do it now.
Why can't we do this on the fly to establish the ones that we know are out? Then we can add. Right,
I know where you're going to say.
What league are we talking about first?
NHL hockey.
NHL.
Okay, all right.
NHL.
Okay, go ahead.
San Jose, they're not winning the Stanley Cup.
Of course they're not. San Jose is not, and Anaheim isn't. We know that.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
So we got San Jose, Anaheim. Where's the third then?
Let's be real. Buff got smoked again last night.
Buffalo.
They got a 6th spot in Columbus. They're not winning the Stanley Cup.
Bad spot,
so there's three.
Buffalo.
There's three. Okay, so there's three. Let's leave it alone until.
Okay,
we'll leave it alone until Monday. We got to add to it. Doogie, keep track. Get a board going, and we'll add to the board on Monday. Teams that will not have no chance of winning.
There's so many more that we could name right now to just get out of the way. I understand. We'll keep the bid going, and it's a long season. But I could name you 15 more teams right now.
Well,
15?
15, absolutely. I could get to 18 right now, I think, in the league. They are not winning the Stanley Cup. Could they win a couple of rounds? Sure. Like, Detroit's not winning. Detroit is not winning.
Okay, you know
really
what?
Right now. Montreal's
here's
not
what
winning.
we'll do. On Monday, you got to rip off and get to 18 and just get them all out of the way. And then you got to – what?
18's a lot. Like, that's going to piss off a couple of teams.
Yes.
Okay, then we'll just do it. We'll do it 2 at a time then. On Monday,
I'll give you 18.
No.
I can give you 18.
No damn way. We got to
give you
get
18.
people on this show, and we don't need haters. We're going to pick away at it throughout the season every Monday. If you're feeling extra spicy, hazy, maybe 1 week we'll give you a 3 or 4 pack.
Why would I be hating if I'm just being honest? Like, these teams know, don't they? Like, don't most teams have a pretty reasonable evaluation of themselves?
You're right, but here's let's get crazy then, just to counter your theory.
I know where you're going.
If you said Utah and Calgary, both of those teams
they're not winning the Stanley Cup.
Okay, so but are they going to be on your list?
Dude,
of course.
You
they're
cannot do that right now. They're 4-0 and they're having
It's
good
an incredible
starts.
story. It's an incredible story.
Dude, you're missing the point of you're missing the point of the exercise.
I understand.
You just think that they're small markets and they're this and they're that. They're not winning the Stanley Cup. Calgary's in first place in the league.
I know, it's amazing. It is, and full credit to them. I give them full credit. I'm not taking that away from them. They're not winning the Stanley Cup. Craig Conroy would come on the show and tell you that. Craig, I think, would say that on the record. I think it would.
But I like the idea of keeping them around in the live pool, in the chum pool, and just keep them swimming
When
in there.
does Colorado go on the list? When does Colorado start to – or Nashville? They lost again last night.
Yeah, Nashville. Okay, so here –
I don't think you can put either of those two teams on the list after what we saw last year until after Christmas.
Okay.
Here's the other
Christmas.
thing, too. I watched Colorado play the other night, and if you watch their injury list, like they're missing 6 like really damn good players. Like that's 2 full lines of players. Like if they can just somehow find a way to get to 500 and tread water until they get a little bit of reinforcements, I think they'll be fine. I think they're a playoff team, and I think they'll be a team that will be scary the more healthy they get. Nashville.
They better wake the hell up.
Well,
Edmonton skated around them last night.
They did. Edmonton generated a lot. Like I thought, UC Saros was excellent. Like if you hear the comments that come out of Nashville, Barry Trotz went on the record and said, "You can't outscore your issues," meaning they're just trying. Now that might be new players trying to Stamkos and Marchessault trying to just, hey, we need to score. We want to be impactful, but they looked a little off. And to me, I thought. Edmonton they're creeping into looking a little bit more like Edmonton. Like
Edmonton's going to be fine.
They had some guys that were skating last night looked pretty good.
Okay, let me proposition you guys.
Okay,
since
go
we're
ahead.
just doing this spontaneously on the fly,
Yes.
better chance of making the playoffs: the Utah Hockey Club or the Nashville Predators?
Oh, that's a good one.
But it depends, though. Are you asking for the small segment we've just seen, or are we thinking
Just in
outside
general,
the
you got to put a bet down right now through FanDuel on a futures bet. Which team makes – that's the prop. FanDuel comes to you and goes, they simply make the playoffs, more likely to make the playoffs, Utah Hockey Club or Nashville.
Okay.
You're a moron not to take the Nashville Predators. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm asking you then. Then hammer
That's the answer. The Nashville Predators.
Okay.
Track record, player personnel, goaltending. It's like It's just recency bias. Like, Utah never makes the playoffs.
Then put them on the 18
So
with Calgary.
I'm the other way. Here's why I might sniff Utah. Here's why. They got a little bit of a Seattle vibe from a couple years ago, where they just a really balanced team. I don't know if the expectation. We had Bill Armstrong on. What was that? Last week or 2 weeks ago? He said,
last week
we're
after
a young
that home
team.
opener.
We'd like to sniff. But they have something there. It might just be for 2 weeks. It might be for 2 months. But I watched them the other day. I'm like, this team has this. Like when you watch Seattle, it's like a couple of years ago, Seattle just had this team that played together and systematically, and they get good goaltending. It kind of was like a perfect mix of things. Right now, and I'm just saying right now, from what I've seen, and I've watched Utah play twice now, they got a little bit of Seattle vibe from a couple of years ago.
Okay, well, Seattle made the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Exactly, that's my point.
All right.
Noodles, who are you picking? Seattle or Nashville?
Utah Hockey Club or Nashville?
Utah
Hockey Club or Nashville?
I still should. I should go Nashville just because of the talent.
Don't let him bully you into that.
No,
Take the
I'm
Hockey
not bullying.
Club.
What I'm saying
Take
is
the
what
Hockey Club.
what I see of the Hockey Club right now is that team has a Seattle vibe from a couple years ago.
Yes,
but
valid.
Nashville, I think, on paper, and I always say this, if top players play to their capability, Nashville is a better team on paper right now. So I will take Nashville, but I've got the caveat saying this Utah team. It wouldn't surprise me if they just had a season where everything kind of went well for them. And good on them. I would be happy.
That'd be
for
great.
them. And
be
from
great for the
what I
Hockey
can
Club.
hear, I was talking to a scout the other night in the rink. Apparently, they are continuing trying to add players. Like they went big game hunting. They got Sergachev. My understanding is they're still in the market for grabbing players to get better as the season goes on. So it'll be interesting to see if they add, if they go fishing around some of these teams that are at the bottom and maybe early before Christmas grabbing a big player.
Well,
you know what you're going to get in this exercise? You're going to get a fan coming at you from one of these markets that you constantly trash talk, and you know what they're going to say? On Monday, Hayes, why don't you just put the Leafs in that group? Because
I understand that. I know that. And listen, for almost 60 years, that would have been an appropriate answer. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Like that, anytime you give an opinion about any other team that the other team doesn't like, it's, well, why don't you talk about, and it's like, guys, what do you want out of me? I don't play the games. I understand the Leafs history, and I understand why there'd be a number of people that would put the Leafs in that starting 18. Now, they would do it in a way where it's trolling, because I do believe the Leafs are one of the 14 best teams in the league. I do believe that. I do believe they have enough talent and depth to go on a long run, and that's ultimately the exercise here. If you give me 14 teams, that's a lot of teams. 1 of 14 to win in the end. It's not that difficult to do that. When you consider it's probably Edmonton, Florida, Boston, Toronto. Everyone's going to have about the same teams, more or less. Dallas, Vegas. Carolina's not off to a hot start. They haven't played a ton, but they'll probably be in the mix in the end. It's more about this early in the year trying to determine which one of these teams that is off to a good start actually has enough to stay with it. And that's where Utah comes into play.
Right.
Pittsburgh, they got some good mojo going right now. Can they bank enough points and stay in the hunt and maybe get to 94, 95 points and punch a ticket?
Yeah.
That's definitely possible. Chicago has been better early in the year.
Well, they got
Do they
better
have?
players.
I don't think so. Yeah, but they got
Yeah.
better players. Exactly. Bertuzzi scored last night. They've got Foligno's up to 3 or 4 already on the year. They got veteran guys. Teravainen's played well. Okay. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think this is just a hot start and they'll fall back into reality. But crazier things have happened. So we'll see. I'll come up. You tell me the number you want me to supply, and then we'll do this weekly, and I'll add to it. Or we could all add to it. You guys come up with that.
We can, for the sake of the segment. There's different ways to go about it. To club 18 teams off the
That's
hop.
rich and obnoxious and silly.
It's rich,
I won't do that.
obnoxious,
Really is.
and it's a little bit of, a segment killer where the anticipation for the week
All right.
after.
But
To
be fair, though, we got to get 4 or 5 out of the way where we know it's a waste of time.
But that's
right? It's a
fine,
waste of
but
time to talk about San Jose or Anaheim. They're not winning the
Right.
Stanley Cup.
I think 4 or 5, but I think it's just we bleed one in. Like this is maybe a 6-week exercise why be picking them all right now? To me,
let's
it's
do it
like,
over
hey,
that.
let's do a 6-week exercise, because by Christmas we should know. Like we'll come in here on a Monday or come in on a Friday and go, another team to add to the list. There's no way, with what we've seen the last 5 weeks, this team is not making the playoffs.
Why don't we just start Monday? We'll start Monday, and it's not an 18-pack, but it is a 10-pack. Okay.
We're good.
And then after that, we'll chip away at it.
One a week,
One
and
a
we
week
can debate
after
it.
that.
We can debate that team, whether we
Okay.
agree with your pick
I like
or
it.
not.
I like it. I mean, you guys might debate with the 10-pack, but I'll get 10 out of the way on Monday, and then one per week the rest of
Dude,
the way.
you've never been hornier to do it.
I can't
Dude,
wait. I'm going to count down from 10.
I know.
10.
You are going to be jogging on the spot on Monday waiting for that show to start to say, I got my 10 team. I can't wait to dump on these teams.
I can't wait
Yeah,
to
like
say which 10 I have.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them right now, and I have some work to do over the weekend. I have some work to do.
Is it a slam dunk 10-pack, you think, or are you going to throw something in there that might throw people for a loop?
I might have to start with one that is going to maybe catch you off guard a little bit. But I'll have a 10-pack waiting for you. I'll have a 10-pack waiting for you. And I don't – listen, I can tell you the two teams playing tomorrow night will not be a part of it, and that's the Maple Leafs and the Rangers, not the 10-pack out of the gate. But Joseph Woll was skating and talking to the media today, and I guess it's a groin issue, and – there's no answer as to when he'll return. Craig Berube effectively said he thinks sooner rather than later, but I can't imagine he's going to start tomorrow. Why would he? Like, why wouldn't you go with Stolarz even if he was healthy? Why would Stolarz not play tomorrow night?
I don't see.
Like, I would play Stolarz, wouldn't he? If Woll
damn
declared
straight.
himself ready?
That's a slam dunk.
This isn't. This isn't a scenario. We've said this before. With all due respect to Joseph Woll, this is not Vasilevsky coming back off of an injury, or back surgery, which we saw last year, where they had two goaltenders that were filling in. It was, Joseph Woll has played 36 games in the league, and he projects to be a very good goaltender, but this is a battle for the crease. Anthony Stolarz has had a good start. He looks good. He looks comfortable. So at the end of the day, why are you, I don't think it's a question. I think the question is, if Woll is available, what start are you going to find for him? When does the competition start? When you insert him into it? That's more the question for me.
I agree, because you've got a couple of big games coming up. Stolarz will start tomorrow. Then you got Tampa on Monday. If Stolarz plays well tomorrow, he plays Monday. That's a big game. You get a divisional game against a team like Tampa where every point is going to matter in terms of jockeying for position. I think Stolarz starts the next two, and then you have the conversation.
Well, they play back-to-back, right?
At Columbus on Tuesday.
And then they play St. Louis
on Thursday. Yeah,
and
one of those two.
Boston. And at Boston. Like, they've got a 5-pack here this week. So if Woll is going to be back in, he's probably going to have to play 2 games this week, I would say.
Right. Stolarz, one of them is going to start in Columbus, not named Stolarz. I would assume he goes Saturday, Monday. They're both at home. Play Stolarz both of those games. If Woll can play Tuesday in Columbus, go for it. If not, that's Hildeby. And then, maybe you give Woll Thursday against St. Louis, and you're going to want your best in Boston next Saturday night.
Well, or if it's Hildeby and he wins, then it's Hildeby again, and you give Woll extra time
Noodles.
to work.
I like that idea. Where
there's
it's
no
like
guarantee here, unless you're.
He's got a contract, though. He's going to play.
Well,
they're not going to ice him here.
No, and 100%. This isn't about that, and I am going to retract a little bit. Because if this is a cap situation, if he's on, I believe it's Hildeby on an emergency recall, or is he just
can
a regular?
Go down, yes.
I believe so. You're going to have to, if Woll is available, you're going to have to pull him off IR and put him back in. So,
I guess you could do a rehab start. Maybe he goes down to the Marlies, but even that, you're just buying time. At some point, he's going to have to play. Exactly. You're not going to put him on waivers. That's not going to happen.
No.
It will be Woll and Stolarz once they come back, or once he's available. Yeah. But, we'll have to see. Because, again, it doesn't sound like it'll be tomorrow. And then into next week, to your point, they got a busy week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Monday at Winnipeg.
Yeah. It's going to be fear watching when he goes back in. It's going to be fear watching when he goes back into the net. I'm going to tell you that right now. I had the same experience watching Matt Murray. I had the same experience watching Freddie Anderson. Freddie Anderson went through a stretch where if like a guy bumped him on the side of the net, he'd be gone for a month. And
No, it's
It's
true.
not it's not funny.
unfortunate,
I don't
but
remember.
Yeah.
Like
that
I
might be a
blocked it
bit
out.
of an extreme.
Dude, he got bumped into a bunch and it was like gone out of the net for long periods of time. I'm like,
Yeah.
how
Well-
are we like? It's just it's a fearful watch where you're like, if this guy falls down, is he going to get back up again? That's where it's at.
Who do you think will start a game first, Allmark or Woll?
Allmark.
Allmark.
I watched him yesterday. Like he's, he looks like he might play tomorrow. I think he might play against Tampa tomorrow. That's an afternoon game, but he had a full practice today. He took about 40 minutes yesterday with the goalie coach and that before practice, and they had 4 goalies. They had an e-bug out there as well, but they had 4 goalies at practice yesterday. Like, to me, I think he probably, if it was playoffs, would have played yesterday, but they gave him the extra, hey, let's save you for Tampa type of thing. That would be my guess, but I think he plays tomorrow, and if not, it'll be in Utah on Tuesday. Like, he's that close.
Okay. Allmark's coming
Yeah.
back, but again, that's kind of, I would say it's hurt them necessarily early in the year, but he had that first start where he was great, and then
You could use him like you could. I don't think they played terrible yesterday, but the difference was, if you ask me in a candid moment, like Jacob Markstrom was really good last night. Like Jacob Markstrom was the difference in the game. Like New Jersey, Sheldon's face, like talking to some of their coaching staff and that, like they've got goaltending this year. Like
they're off to a good start. They're winning
they're
a lot
good
of games.
team. They're a good team, and they've got a guy who makes saves nightly. And not just Markstrom. Jake Allen has played 2 games and played very well in his starts. Like, they've got 2 34-year-old goaltenders that have been starters in the league. Like, you went from having kids that were having to punch above their weight and they weren't ready to play in the NHL to grabbing 2 guys. And they've got real depth in that position. And I think the team knows it. The team plays like it too.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we're looking at the odds up on the screen for the Jack Adams, and Sheldon Keefe is a pretty heavy favorite right now. And a lot of it is goaltending, but he walked into a perfect situation to win an award like that. You finish with 110 points, win your division, everything's rosy. People are going to say, what a job.
Yeah, and it's a new guy in a new scene and
Always,
the whole
man.
deal.
Rick
It's
Tocchet
always
did
the
it
deal.
last year. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
All right, Rick Bowness coming up. Rick will join us to
Nice.
get his take on the goaltending shuffle in the NHL, what he makes of the Leafs early in the year. And we've got the Spanish call. We heard Matty Cause play it earlier this afternoon on Big Christmas, his home run in the 9th last night.
What a
What a
home run.
great nickname. What a great ball game that was. And on the other side of things, the Mets are do or die this afternoon. The Dodgers laid a beating on them again last night. So more on that still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Rick Bowness coming up here in a moment. Mike Johnson still to come. Luke Wilson coming up as well. And Al's brother will be here with more picks on the weekend. Hayes and Bro chugging. Absolutely on fire right now. And Dear Hazy B coming up in a couple of hours. And we'll be
Nice.
tracking the ball games as well. The Mets are in big trouble. Like, Ohtani hit a leadoff home run last night. And it's such a message to your team and to the other team. Like, we're not interested in a split. We don't care that we're in New York and you guys have been feeling good and you got mojo. Like,
It's
we're
on
here
the
to
best
end
player
it.
in the world, and watch this.
Yeah, we're here to end it. And I'm going to put this immediately on the board and chew on it. And that's exactly what happened. And that was the beginning of a big, big night for the Dodgers and a long night for the Mets. And it felt like the Yankees basically had it wrapped up, right?
They
Like,
pissed one away.
they
last night.
absolutely did, especially back-to-back bombs by Judge and Stanton to
Yeah.
take the lead in the 8th. So you're like, this is over now, man. This team is chugging at this point. They have mojo. They're about to go up 3-0 in the series, and I think a sweep was more than likely going to happen at that point. And then John Kenzie Noel steps up with 2 outs, 2 strikes, and he hit a ball that is still in the air, I believe. Like,
He hit it so far.
that was absolutely destroyed to left. His nickname is Big Christmas, which is the best nickname going.
He knew right away.
Oh,
Like,
that
came
was a
off the-
no-doubter. That was a no-doubter. You guys want to hear the Spanish call, that home run last night?
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Plató, batazo! ¡Feliz Navidad! ¡Feliz Navidad! ¡Chelsea Noel! ¡Para empatar el encuentro la Navidad en octubre! ¡Qué bárbaro, qué monstruo!
I love that. Feliz Navidad. Like the other guy's
That's a
just
great
laughing.
I know. That
Like
was
the color guy
awesome.
doesn't say a word. He just laughs the whole time.
It was
That's a great
unbelievable.
call, though, man. And like I would assume that's a national broadcast. Like I don't think that was a Cleveland specific, like home team call. On maybe it is. Maybe it was Spanish radio in Cleveland. But what
It's
a
amazing
hit.
how the pressure shifts like that. They get that hit and they get it to 2-1. That's all it takes to get the other team thinking, man. Like in playoff series, they get it to 2-1. You're like, damn, if they win the next one, they got all the mojo.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and they walk it off in extras last night. That building was going nuts. And whenever I see that team, like the whole vibe, it just reminds me of the movie Major League, doesn't it? And like that was basically Big Christmas last night. And that was Spanish Harry Doyle, just going crazy with Feliz Navidad, and just an incredible night in Cleveland.
¡Feliz Navidad!
Now the Yankees, they gotta get back into the box because someone's going to be up 2-1 in a best of 7, and as of now it's the Yankees, but it can turn quickly. So what a night last night, and we'll continue to tee up the games tonight. Steve Phillips in about an hour. But here's longtime NHL coach back on OverDrive. It's been a while. It's always great to have him on. Here's Rick Bowness. How you doing, Rick?
Gentlemen, doing great, thanks. Hope you guys are all doing well.
Yeah, we are. We're doing well. It's a great time of year for sports, and hockey's back, and you've been behind a bench for so long. Basically, I'm sure it feels like your whole life. Now that we're a week or two into it, are you missing being behind the bench or what?
Yes, I am. I am, and listen. I knew when I decided to step away from coaching that I would miss everything about the coaching, and I do. But I also know that it wasn't a quick decision. I gave it a lot of thought. I knew it was time, and I'm leaving on my terms, so that makes it a little easier to live with and to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I knew at the time, listen, I know I'm going to miss it. And I do. There's no question. But I'll tell you, my wife Judy misses it just as much as I do. It's like she loves the games and social life. And she does. But again, we talked about the decision. We knew it was time. I'm leaving it. I left on my terms, and that makes it a little bit easier.
Well, now that you're not married to a team as a coach, can you be a little bit more, can you dig into other teams? Like as a coach, you're always kind of fine-tuning your own team. Yes, you're pre-scouting and watching the league, but now can you focus on other teams and maybe dig in on teams you haven't really been able to watch in past years other than just doing your pre-scout and playing against them?
Yeah, no, I've been watching the games, and I'm trying to watch a few more teams on the East because, again, by being out West as long as I was, you lose that close feeling about the personnel on the team and how they play. I've also been watching the teams with new coaches in there to see what changes they've made. So it's watching the games. But I got to tell you, I was happy to just heard you guys talking about that Cleveland Yankees game, and I just happened to flip it over and I caught the ending, and I'm saying, this is fantastic. I love playoff baseball, and I don't watch baseball all summer, and then be getting the playoffs, man. It's exciting to see those guys step up in key moments, especially that Noel, was that his name? It was the 2-run homer.
Big Christmas.
In the bottom of the ninth with 2 out. This is what makes sports so spectacular. Those big moments where guys just rise to the occasion, and you got to love it. But to answer your question, Jamie, I've been watching the games, and I'm not as invested in them. I'm just trying to get a better feel for them. But there'll come a time where we'll take the time and start breaking down some games, some teams a little bit closer.
Rick, how long from the coach's perspective do things need to happen on the ice for it to be uncomfortable? Like you're seeing some tough starts in Colorado and Nashville. Van hasn't been great. Obviously, Edmonton for the first 3 games. Like, amongst the coaching staff, obviously wins is what it's all about, and everybody can have a laugh. It's not exactly overly fun, but guys are having a good time. But how long does it take for it to be, like, stressful within the coaches where it's like, we need to get a win here?
In the situations you're talking about, Nashville and Colorado, I think everyone around the team, the players, the coaches, they all know it's there. I would give that like 8 to 10 games, and if you haven't seen a turnaround in 8 to 10 games, then the panic better set in. You look at Edmonton; they were soft for a couple of games. All of a sudden, they decided to get a little nasty out there and start playing a little bit harder, and they're getting the benefits of that. The 2 teams that we're talking about, Nashville and Colorado, they need to get that. They need to get that nastiness back. They need to show a lot more passion, and not just 3 or 4 shifts in a row, but they need to go out there and dominate a period. And physically and scoring chances and shots and everything else. And even if they don't win this period in terms of goals scoring, they've got to go out there and feel good about themselves by just completely dominating a period. But if they continue this trend that both teams are on, and they're getting up to 8 to 10 games, then you better start to panic a little bit. I'm hoping that both teams, that the coaches and the management and players feel a little bit of improvement from one game to the next. That would have to come internally, obviously. But just watching it, you can just tell both those teams they're out of sync. There's no question about it, and they're not having periods where they're dominating, and they're not able to keep it on a consistent flow. Again, regardless of the goals, the puck going in or not. But again, Edmonton, good to see them turn around. You knew that was a matter of time. Now, we can sit here and say it's only a matter of time for those 2 teams to turn it around, but that's going to be up to the players to do that. They're just going to have to go on the ice and back up what they're talking about, because they're all saying, yeah, we're a good team. Well, there comes a point where you've got to go out there and do it, and they're closing in on that pretty quickly.
With Rick Bowness, I'm curious, though, 8 to 10 games in, where the difference in a coach's mood or attitude when he doesn't see his team playing well systematically, or hard on pucks, checking the way he wants them to check, anything along those lines, compared to when the goaltender is just killing you and you feel like you don't have a goalie. Like, what's the difference in a coach's mood and attitude when through 10 games you think, man, my team's playing pretty well, my goalie's killing me? Like, how do you separate the two in terms of a reaction?
The players know. The players know if they're playing well and hard and why they're losing. If it's the goalie, then the coach has got to continue to just keep pushing the positive without laying all the blame on the goaltender. And you got to believe that the goaltending and the goaltending coach are going to work closely and get that turned around. Listen, if they're in the league, they're good. They're good goalies. But if it's the team, then the coach has got to be on them every day about the things that they've got to turn around and now in the next week or so. But again, the players know. The players know when they're playing hard enough. The players know when they're playing together. When everything's in sync, they know it and they feel it and they see it from the bench. They feel it on the ice. They also know, okay, we're playing great and the goaltender's not making the saves we need him to make. Then we can't get away from the way we were playing and how we have to play to be successful. But again, that's the coach, and if he's not seeing what he wants to see, that's a daily process, man. You get after the guys that you're not happy with. You get after the way they're not playing. They're playing the way you want them to play. But then again, if the things you're happy with, you got to show them. This is what we're doing really well, and build the positive and build some reinforcements back up on the way they're playing, and then really identify the areas that have to be improved. And again, they're running out of time, so those improvements have to come like right now. But again, everyone knows if the goalie's having a tough night, he's having a tough night.
What's the transaction between the coach and the GM if they can't get a save? Like, does the coach literally say, can I talk to you? And don't be shy to get a guy in between the pipes that can make a save. Does that conversation happen, Rick?
that conversation, yes, it does. They say, listen, okay, and the GM, fortunately, I had good talks, good relationship with the GMs, and the GM will come down and say we need saves, and there comes a point where, okay, maybe we got to look at alternatives, but for the most part, this early in the year, I don't think anyone's panicking about their goaltending situation yet. I think that the general manager, the coach, and the staff are certainly talking about it. They're well aware of the areas. And then, that's when you need your general manager to come down and say, hey, you guys are doing, we're playing better than our record, just stay with it. Or the general manager saying, listen, you guys are seeing what we're seeing. We gotta pick up the intensity. We got to pick up our team play, and we got to build up that trust back out there on the ice between the players.
With Rick Bowness, I would imagine the relationship between the coach and the GM has the ability to fluctuate over the course of the year, especially based on expectations. In other words, if the GM thinks he's put together a great team, and what if the coach doesn't think it's a great team and it's not going so well? Like, who wins that battle, Rick, if you're kind of going toe-to-toe with your GM and the team's not going, and as the coach, you're probably the one that's going to have to fall on the sword. How do you fight back on that if the analysis isn't equal?
The GM's going to win that one.
Yes, he will.
There's no question. But again, you got to. The firm believer that coach and GM have to have a very strong relationship, especially in today's professionals, just not in our sport, but in the other sports as well. You've got to be tight with the general manager. You've got to be on the same page. You've got to be working closely with each other every day. But eventually the GM, again, depending on his tenure and how many coaches has he replaced and how much improvement has been in the team for his tenure as well, right? That all comes into play. But until that day when the general manager's moved out, he will win that battle. There's no question, as he should. He's in charge of the team. He's in charge of the personnel on the team. The coach's job is to take the players that are there every day and get the most out of them and work with the players that you have. General managers and the scouting, the hockey management, that's their job, to identify the weaknesses in your organization and go find the right people to fill the spots that are hurting you right now. It's just not a matter of making a trade for the making a trade. You've got to get the right people in there, the right type of character, the right type of strength and his abilities. You got to get the right fit for what you need. But that should be identified with the coach and the general manager. They're working together. This is the type of player we need. This is the type of character we need. And then it's up to the general manager to do his best to fill that role. But again, the general manager is going to have the final say on what goes on. That is it should. Again, that's his team. And we as coaches, you give us the players. Our job is to focus on coaching the players to the best of our ability every day.
Well, Rick, you talk about coaching the players now. I mean, from when you started to when you ended coaching, obviously the athlete has changed. Everything has changed in the world. Looking back even to your last couple of years, what stands out, or what's the biggest difference between the players that you used to coach to today's athlete? Is it just the preparation, the food, the information they want? Is it some of those details? Is that the biggest difference?
It's a big difference in pretty much everything we do with them. The coach's job is to get as much information as he possibly can. Then he has to decide what he wants to pass on to the players, what he thinks those players need to know. Today's players, they do want more answers, and they do, and they're better educated coming into our league. They're better coached throughout the minor hockey and junior hockey and college hockey. There's much better coaches out there, so they're better prepared coming into our league. But they still want the information. Now, can you give them too much information? Yeah. You got some players, and I had a couple of them recently, they don't want a whole lot of information. They don't want to go overboard. They want like one or two things, and that's it. They don't want to hear 3 or 4 different scenarios. They want to get right to the facts of this is, it's one or two things, and that's it. Some of the players today love analytics. There's quite a few of the players who don't like analytics because then it's too much information. So the coach has to decide, get as much information as you can. Use the analytics for the information you need to have. But then you've got to make the right call on what player can handle all this information and what player needs just a little bit, one or two things to work on and focus on those things. So, but today's player, the biggest thing, Jamie, is that they want information. They want to know what's going on, whether it's a little bit of information or a lot. But they do want a little bit. They want to be a little bit better informed.
Well, we'll leave it there, Rick. We always appreciate you doing this. Have yourself a great weekend, and I'm sure we'll do it again down the road. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Nice talking to you guys. Take care.
Rick Bowness, longtime NHL head coach, and sure, his life's very different now, man. It's like 40 years in the league or whatever it was.
Well, you get into a routine. Like every day during the season, it's up and you're at the rink. Like coaches live at the rink. Like those are 16-hour days. You're at the rink, and all of a sudden you're not coaching. Like you're sitting at home. You got to find something else to do.
Yeah, watch hockey, I guess. That's probably what it is. You're
if
waiting
you're in a
for
warm
games to
climate,
start.
you can go.
Big void. Like I'm sure he probably said, I'm not that young anymore, and it's time to slow it down. But I bet you every day he wakes up and there's a part of him that wishes that he was going to the rink every single damn day.
I would think so too, and probably watching games, thinking I can do this, I could fix that. Like that seems to be the consistent theme with every coach you talk to.
Oh yeah, I can fix that.
I can fix that. That's something I can do, and I guess you have to have that confidence.
Sure.
Of course.
But that's why I was asking him though. Like when you assess it differently, that's when you have, like, if you're a coach, how do you handle that if the GM is saying, I believe I did my job well enough for this team to be competitive, and the coach is coaching it and watching it saying, I'm telling you they can't win. This team isn't good enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I can't imagine that happens often.
No,
gets
you're
back
pretty
to what we did.
stupid if you're buying into a team that's completely not going to make the playoffs and you're saying to the coach, I believed in that roster. Like, come on.
Right.
No, but there
taking
might be
steps or whatever,
There might be a disagreement on a manager that hands you. I'll give an example, like a defenseman, and to me, the coach goes, he's a 5'6", and the managers go, no, he's actually a 3. He's going to play in your second pairing or your top pairing. And the coach is like, this guy isn't good enough. But then he has to play him in that scenario. And those are those conversations where the manager is bullish on a player and the coach is like, I'm watching him from ice level. This guy stinks, or I can't trust him, or I can't play him in certain situations. That's where the power struggle is when it's not the star players or the guys who are at the bottom. It's the guys in the middle, where you get a manager that falls in love with a player, and the coach is like, I don't love him as much as you do. But the manager goes, you got to play him there because I'm paying him like that, and I want him to play on my third line or my second line. Like that's where I think the disconnect happens between manager and coach.
For sure, like individual assessments as opposed to like a big picture thing.
Yep.
And that definitely does happen. And it changes with manager to manager. Previous manager loved this guy. The new guy comes in and goes, I don't like that guy. That's not going to be a part of this program. All right, Mike Johnson in about 15 minutes. Steve Phillips coming up on what happened last night in Cleveland, what happened last night with the Mets and the Dodgers, and those games both going later this afternoon into this evening. And Week 7 started with a bang for Hayes and Bro, Luke Wilson, and my partsy, Al's brother, still to come as well. Dear Hazy B around the corner. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, it is time for you to tell us where Al's brother was hiding this week. All right, call us right now at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with the correct location will win a pair of tickets to see the Maple Leafs play the Lightning on Monday night. All right, 416-870-1050. Do you guys want to guess where Al's brother is this week?
Well, I think
Yes,
we know.
Union Station.
Union
guys-
Station is correct. Yes,
You guys
Al's brother.
guess you guess day 2.
Well,
Like,
the path system and close to the rink, it kind of
As
narrowed
soon
things
as
down a little bit.
As soon as it went path system, I like that one. It's random. Close to the rink, it's game over.
yeah,
Yeah. Would you consider the Hall of Fame close to the rink?
No.
sort of.
I think
Sort
so.
of.
I think
But
that
it would
count.
keep you guessing. It would that's where I wanted to guess it because I'm like, there's no way it's the rink because it's too close to.
Yeah, it can't be Scotiabank. Like the Leafs aren't letting him in there anyway with tickets. I mean, Come on, that's not going to happen. Maybe CN Tower would count. You know, that's close enough to the rink. I think the Royal York would have been in contention, but
Al's brother's a legend. Remember when Kyle Dubas acknowledged him? Hey, Al's brother. I think Brad Treliving knows who Al's brother is.
I would guess 95% of the Maple Leaf organization knows who he is.
There's no
Kyle used to have stop-and chats with Al's brother.
Yes,
I know, but
in the press box, pulling him aside.
I would laugh to see
to
if Matthews, Austin Matthews, if he knows who Al's
He knows
brother
Al's
is.
brother. He'd play it cool and pretend like he didn't, but he knows Al's brother.
I love it.
I guarantee
He
it.
does.
Yes, I guarantee it. He lived
No
in the
way.
city too long. He knows. He knows. He's checking out Al's brother. He might be riding Al's brother all the way to the promised land, right? Putting that 13.25 on the line. Maybe he hammered the Broncos last night.
Maybe me and Al's brother will spice up the contest in 1 week. Me and Al's brother will take you and whoever else wins the tickets to a game.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. All right, hour 2 coming up. Mike Johnson will join us. Steve Phillips on the baseball playoffs. Dear Hazy B still to come. Luke and Al's brother as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.